good word, DKB here. So we're breaking down another prospect from the New York Jets 2023 NFL Draft. Today I'm diving into 6th-round pick Zaire Barnes out of Western Michigan. A guy that I'm pretty hyped about. 3 years from now, I think he could be a huge impact player on this defense if the natural progression of Robert Saleh's linebackers goes the way that it's generally gone in years past. So let's talk about this previously unknown player that potentially can be one of the better, if not best, players to come out of the MAC conference, and exactly what he's going to bring to the table. So, coming out of Western Michigan, 6'1", 233 pounds, fits the Robert Saleh archetype to a T. One of the things that I love most is his background. Played running back in high school. You can see it on tape when you talk about the movement ability, being able to go sideline to sideline. Definitely had one of the better RAS scores for linebackers as a whole. So just a very strong athlete in and of itself. And then you add that onto the fact that he played both sides of the field. He also played safety. So when I look at some of his coverage abilities, his ability to blitz and pass rush against the quarterback, a lot of that shows up with the recognition you get as safety. And I believe it was more so of him playing kind of a box safety role, which makes sense. He definitely does well around the line of scrimmage and being able to get in on the action there. So coming off the season that he just put up in 2022, 93 tackles, 8 pass deflections, a sack, a forced fumble, an interception. He led his team in tackles not only last year but in 2021 as well. And in 2022, he led his team in those pass deflections with 8 there. So he's a guy that definitely filled up the stat sheet as he, best he could. And ultimately, again, this guy, I think the upside is higher than many people expect. You think about a lot of the other previous linebackers Robert Saleh's had to work with. Those guys didn't necessarily fit a skill set per se. They fit the athletic requirements that he was looking for. Zaire Barnes is a guy that I think actually has the capability of filling both pretty quickly. So while in year one, I think he'll mostly be a core special teamer, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him improve by leaps and bounds. Much like with Quincy Williams, you have to remember when we picked him up as a waiver wire, he was already chopped by his previous team and was looking like he was another prospect that was on their way out of the NFL pretty quickly, and he turned his career around. So he's definitely in good hands here with Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich. What is he going to bring to the table? Fluid hips and transition. We talked about his movement ability. I would compare this to the conversation we had about Israel Abanikanda. Israel, very speedy guy, very sudden, a lot of burst, but when he's moving laterally, he needs to go sideways. You can see some of that burst and acceleration not necessarily be there. Zaire's definitely much more of a fluid athlete with the hips to be able to swivel and do different things that he'll need to do to try to break down his opponent. Sideline to sideline coverage ability. Again, one of the better athletes at the linebacker position for himself. It shows on tape what he's able to do. Runs with most tight ends and running backs. So when we want to talk about an athlete, you're going to talk more so about the guys like Breece Hall that'll probably be able to run away from him, although probably still difficult. It's not like Zaire Barnes ran a 4.2, but he's definitely as quick, if not quicker, than what it looks like he ran at the combine. Makes plays in space. We talked about the safety background. I would even say running back has a certain element to his game here for sure. Takes good tackle, pursuit, and coverage angles, so he's not a guy that's necessarily going to get caught out of position a whole lot, even when his technique isn't necessarily always there. He seems to be in the right position in order to get a key stop or a key play made. Play inside linebacker and outside linebacker, so he's a guy that you can kind of groom for both roles, although it does seem like he'll be a better outside linebacker where he can just stick to half-field reads and make the most of what he's going to be able to provide athletically. Short area quickness, a capable blitzer. He's basically put up, I want to say, 3.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. So they've asked him to do more than most linebackers we would take, which is something that you can add in whenever we do want to throw in a key blitz package here and there. And he disrupts passing lanes. I think the pass deflections speak for itself. But when you turn on the tape, you see it's not an obvious completion whenever a team is looking to attack his side of the field. which is something that I think speaks volumes when you consider we used to get killed by a lot of screen plays and just running backs that could be potential receiving threats. You could basically target any linebacker across our roster and they were going to have success. So bringing in a guy like Zaire Barnes, I think can help nullify a lot of what we used to see there a couple years down the line. Opportunities with them, again, with any of Robert Saleh's linebackers, we're sacrificing the strength to be able to go out there and just knock heads off. Not to say we don't have some people that are heat-seeking missiles, but there is a lot more potential for them to be run over and kind of bullied. Same case with Zaire Barnes here. And then the other thing, and I kind of highlighted it before, technique. It's not always consistent on a play-by-play basis. So with him squaring up his hips, being able to get form tackles on people, knowing when to break on some of these passing lanes and things that are going to be in his territory, generally good, but he's not as consistent as he could be. And you imagine if he shores those up, he's automatically looking to be, 7 to 10 year linebacker in this league. And then he can't get lost in zone coverage, especially if there's multiple route concepts going on in his area. So I take a look at like bunch formations and different things like that. Something he's going to have to work on is definitely going to be his route recognition. But I won't say he's necessarily a liability in any area. Coming out of the MAC, his big issue is really going to be seeing how he matches up to this NFL level talent, getting a year or two of the strength and conditioning program under his belt. And then, again, I'm really predicting that this guy is probably going to be an impact linebacker for us 3 years down the line, and not necessarily following the path of a Hamza Nasruddin, for example, who's just barely hanging on. And I actually predicted, we talked about it on the Jets Flight Squad podcast a little bit, he could potentially replace Hamza Nasruddin this year, especially if he ends up being as good of a core special teamer as we think. So I don't have any necessary pro comparisons for you guys. I couldn't really find any either, but just enjoy the highlight film. Enjoy what he's going to bring. I hope we can get him on the field year one. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Zaire Barnes, and I will catch you guys again. Appreciate it. Peace.